It's called the A110, and it's made by Alpine, a French sports car firm who have a history of hitting the spot. The original A110, for example, won the World Rally Championship in 1973. And it's that car that gives the new one not only its name, but also its looks. So, what we have here is a small, pure, no-nonsense sports car aimed squarely at the Porsche Cayman and the Audi TT. And this, unfortunately, is where the problems begin. You see, this launch version of the Alpine costs £51,000. £51,000. Now, for £1,000 more, you can have the TT RS. That's the one Clarkson was driving in the last series. And that's more powerful and it's faster. And the Porsche Cayman you buy for £51,000 is also more powerful than this, and it's a Porsche, whereas this is an Alpine. That's something you're going to have to explain when you're down the pub. Even the engine sounds a bit lame. I don't mean the noise it makes. I mean when somebody asks you, what's that got then, mister? Because the answer is a 4-cylinder 1.8-litre turbo, sonny, for over £50,000. I mean, is that it? Also, I'm not sure about the looks. The original 1960s version was a masterpiece. But for me, this modern reboot doesn't quite work. The problem, I think, is that on modern cars there are rules about things like how high the headlights are above the ground, how forgiving the bonnet is if you run into a pedestrian. But once you stretch modern legislation over 1960s design language, you end up with a sort of slightly lame tribute act. So, is there anything good to report? Well, thankfully, yes. For starters, although Alpine is owned by Renault, this car is not just a hot Megane dressed up in some fancy suit. The A110 is in fact a mid-engined, rear-drive sports car designed from scratch on a clean sheet of paper. The body and the chassis are made entirely of aluminium, and the reason for that is simple. It's lightness. And from that starting point, the Alpine engineers nerded their way through the rest of the car and shaved off every spare gram they could find. The seats, for example, are half the weight of the ones you'll find in any hot Renault. The handbrake is built into the main calipers, rather than being separate, saving another 2.5 kilos. Even the stereo is a bespoke, lightweight design. And then there's this boot at the front, which is just deep enough for a small suitcase like this one. But now I think about it, putting the suitcase in there would just add weight. So what I would do is just pack my overnight stuff straight in there. The only downside is that in the morning I have to go outside if I want a fresh pair of pants. So, thanks to Alpine's fanatical diet regime, this car is 300 kilos lighter than a Cayman or an Audi TT. And that has a profound effect. Suddenly, it doesn't really matter that you've only got 1.8 litres and 248 horsepower. This thing absolutely zips along. 0 to 60, 4.5 seconds. Top speed limited to 155 miles an hour. And then, when you get to a corner, you find out just how agile this thing is. It's like driving a feather. was like a cartoon car. It should come with those little bubbles saying piff, pow, bam. But even though the A110 is built to minimalist principles, you never feel like you're in some miserable Spartan track day car. It has aircon, sat-nav, phone connectivity, all the modern things you want. This whole lightness and smallness thing cascades down in a sort of waterfall of pure joy. Lower weight means you don't need such big tyres, you don't need so much grip. That gives the car more feel. Low weight means you use less fuel, you make lower emissions. It's just win, 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 win all the way. This is actually the most intelligent car I've driven for years. And I love it for that. I love it.
So despite the ordinary engine, the looks that you're not sure about, and the high price, you liked it.
I did. I loved it, yeah.
Yes, but would you buy one?
I have.
You've bought one of those?
I have, and actually, so has Gordon Murray. I've brought a picture of him along, him. He designed the McLaren F1, so he knows.
Yeah, so it's the sports car of choice for old men with terrible shirts. So that's good to know.
Evidently, but now let's see how fast it goes round the Ebola drone, shall we? And she's off. Brisk start, and apart from the exhaust on the upchange. Immediately onto the isn't straight, and actually, that's not hanging around. Perhaps James was right about the benefits of whatever it was he was saying. Howling round the final bend of the isn't. Dropping down now into your name here. Scrubbing off speed in a hurry. Torturing those tyres, but that does look pretty nimble. Now the canter back down the isn't. Picking up speed. Dab of brakes at the midpoint. Now much harder on the brakes, flicking down the 7-speed box for Old Lady's house. Any understeer? No, not bad for a mid-engine car with no weight over the nose. I actually rather like the styling of this, and I'm right. Just field of sheep to go now. Here we are. And oh yes, that's an exuberant drift to finish and across the line. Very good. Very good. Good driving. On form. Right, let's see where it goes on our lap board. Will it go in the top 10? Oh dear, no it doesn't. Sorry, mate, that is dismal for a mid-engine car. It is.
Look, it isn't about things like lap times. I've told you before, he who is first shall be last, and the last shall be first.
Yes, but it's 15th.
It is, yeah, it is.
So?
It's the Romain Grosjean of cars, that is.
Romain who?
Grosjean.
Who's he?
He's a French racing driver, the 15th best Formula One driver in the world. In fact, you'd like him.
I already do.
Good.